بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم ألهمنا مراشد أمورنا وأعذنا من شرور أنفسنا قال الله تبارك وتعالى يريدون ليطفئوا نور الله بأفواههم والله متم نوره ولو كره الكافرون صدق الله العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الحبيب الكريم ونحن على ذلك لمن الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. In this verse of the Quran Kareem, Allah Tabarak Ta'ala speaks about what is Islam, how weak it seems to be, how much of effort has been made to blow out the flame of Islam, how much of effort will be made. This word yuriduna means there's an intention continuous of a huge group of people, liyutfi'u nur Allah, to extinguish the light of Allah. Light is one thing, it's like one candle burning. And when a boy is 1 year old and the mother says, blow out your candle, we don't do these things. But for example, because it's only one candle, even the 1 year old manages to blow it out. As he gets bigger, when the candles become many, then even if you're 30, you can't blow it out yourself. But one candle, Almighty Allah has shown that Islam is one light. And you got an entire army, worlds. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, a time will come when they'll gather upon you like people on a dastarkhan. So many countries, so many alams, so many superpowers. And the desire will just be to blow out the light of Islam. Wallahu mutimmu nurihi, but Almighty Allah will make sure the light will continue blowing. It will never be extinguished. Walau kariya al-kafirun, no matter how unhappy they are with this decision. In another verse, Allah Tabarak Ta'ala speaks about Islam. Allah Tabarak Ta'ala says it was a seed. A seed normally when planted in the ground, there's so much of fear of an animal just uprooting it, of the stalk coming out and an animal just walking on it, someone just pulling it from the ground. Allah Tabarak Ta'ala says, Kazar'in. It was like that one seed that was put in the ground. But then it took out a stalk which was very, very weak at the beginning, small. In Makkah Mukarramah, when they were few in number and the thought came, let us go to the masjid. As they stood in that masjid just before the acceptance of Islam of Umar radiallahu anh, the amount of people who were hit and the manner they were hit was like an indication that Islam is never coming to Makkah Mukarramah. Then how things changed after that. Medina Munawwara they went to, within a few years they entered back into Makkah Mukarramah as conquerors. Then the entire Arab world wants to fall on Makkah Mukarramah. Battle after battle, suddenly Islam has spread in the entire Arabian Peninsula. Before the death of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, take out the Yahud and the Nasara from Jaziratul Arab. In the beginning of his mission, no one ever believed. Medina Munawwara was the stronghold of the Yahud. Makkah Mukarramah was the stronghold of people who worship the idols. Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Shaitan has lost hope that now the idol will be worshipped in the land of Makkah Mukarramah. Now it was the Roman and the Persian Empire. That threat was there. The Nabi of Allah passes away. Immediately an attack is being made. Many Arabs become apostate. It's called the Battle of Irtidad. A man stands up with a false claim, I am the new Nabi, Musaylama Kadhab. He gathers a huge army. A battle takes place. Again people think Islam will not survive this. Now there's no Nabi to fight the war. No Nabi. It had never happened from the time of Nabi Adam alayhi salam that there was no Nabi and still the followers were winning. It had never happened that there was no Nabi and the religion was being looked after. But Islam was different. Abu Bakr radiallahu anh stands up. A huge war has to take place. Then comes the era of Umar radiallahu anh. The Roman Empire is collapsing. Persian Empire is collapsing. That light of Islam is just getting stronger and stronger. Now Islam was going to show the ups and downs. And I will take you on a course of history. Because every time when man looks at, he only looks at his 50 years. And he doesn't look at a picture of 1,400 years. So in the 50 years he sees only, I read in the newspaper, there's war taking in Iraq. And there's a war in Afghanistan. And there's a war in Bosnia. There's a war in Somalia. And everywhere the Muslims are just losing. So a time comes where the man thinks that I think this is the end, it's finished. So first was when Abu Bakr radiallahu anh stood up. During that time, very few had a hope it was going to survive. But how it survived? In the year 300 AH after Hijri, 300 years after the Hijrat of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, something was created in the world called the Fatimi Empire. It was the first Shia empire that was going to stand. It was going to have its own khilafat. It started in North Africa, Qayrawan. It was a land full of Maliki ulama. But it was a created fitna. When they entered, very soon the adhan had to change. And the sentence was added, Hayya ala khairil amal. The adhan changed. There was nothing wrong with the sentence, come to the best of actions. But in Islam, even one change is not allowed. The Taraweeh was abolished. 60 years later, they enter into Egypt. What we know today as Al-Azhar. Al-Azhar was founded in that era. But it wasn't founded to promote a true Islamic picture. When it started to promote Shiism in the entire world. Azhar was creating scholars of the Shia, masters of the Shia. They had a unique army. In the year 450 AH, 450 years after the Hijrat of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, on the day of Eid, in the land of Iraq, which was the capital of the Muslim world, every adhan had Hayya ala khairil amal included in it. At that time, for every adhan to have it mean Shia thought had penetrated into the center of the Muslim Republic. The official of the Khalif, his name was Abul Qasim. Like how recently we had a President Muhammad Mursi martyred. Abul Qasim was brought. Hooks were put in his mouth. He was crucified. In the most barbaric manner that man was crucified to say this is an end of true Islam. Because the official of the Khalif is being put up and there was no one to stand. From 300 AH to 450 AH, the Shia power starting from North Africa, going right into Egypt and reaching Iraq. In that 150 years they became so powerful that a thought went in the minds of the world that after this there will only be Shia Islam in the world, no other Islam. The threat of the Shia. Yuriduna liyutfi'u nur Allah. Their desire is to blow out the light of Islam. Wallahu mutimmu nurihi. We are sitting today 1,400 years. True Islam still remained in the world. As that was carrying on one side, 450 AH, it was on the peak of their power. On the other side, 20 years later starts the crusades. The crusade menace starts with 300,000 Christians from different Christian lands landing in the land of Sham. There was no war taking place. The Muslims of Sham had a truce with the Christians. They could not understand why the Christians are coming to us. 50 years later, meaning in 510 years after the Hijrat of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the blessed lands of Sham, where today we see what's happening in Palestine, we saw the creation of Israel, we saw so many filthy empires around, and we think this is the first. 510 years after the Hijrat, the Christians had established not one Christian kingdom, 4. Each was a kingdom of its own. There was Antioch, there was Edessa, there was Tripoli, there was Jerusalem. The king of England was more in the lands of Sham than he was in the land of England. This was their land. At that time, masjids were closed throughout. It had become stables for animals. Churches were putting up in the lands of Sham. On one side, it was Shia thought and enjoying 150 years of power. On the other side, there was a Christian power, like what we say today, the Christian powers of the world. Superpower America, superpower Britain, superpower Germany, superpower Russia. Who will ever stand up against them? Which Muslim country? Allah Ta'ala says they gathered and they will continue gathering to blow out the light of Islam. Wallahu mutimmu nurihi. But Allah is going to make this thing continue blowing and blowing. Shia thought could not affect true Islam. True Islam remained in the world. Christian power could not affect true Islam. Allah Ta'ala made people stand up. Most notable in that era was a man called Nuruddin Zengi. And his most unique military genius, Sultan Salahuddin al-Ayyubi. Allah Ta'ala created such people that you will say like single-handedly. But Allah Pak brought armies behind them. And they brought down the Shia menace. Today we don't hear of the Fatimi empire. It collapsed. From a position where the world never thought it will collapse, it collapsed. We don't hear about it. Today we don't hear about the crusades. From a position where they had 4 kingdoms in the lands of Sham, you will not find the trace of one kingdom. The candle of Islam quietly carried on burning, and the blowers who were around it fell to the ground. But one light carried on. Allah Ta'ala showed the menace of the Tatars. Genghis Khan, his menace started in the year 616 after Hijri. 600 years after the Hijrat. It started in the eastern part of the Muslim lands. It started in the lands of Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Pakistan, Iran. When we say it started there, means he was going through those lands. Today when we hear of Kashmir, and we hear of Syria, and we hear of Iraq, and we say everywhere it's happening, it happened before also. Genghis Khan started from the eastern part, he reached all the way to Iraq. He said the worst for the Muslim world was when Baghdad, center of Iraq, and Iraq, center of the Muslim world, Khilafat, when Baghdad was sacked in the year 656. At that time it was understood that there will never be an army to stand up to the superpower of the Tatars. It was not one battle, not 2 battles. We hear of the word Bukhara, he sacked Bukhara. We hear Samarkand, he sacked Samarkand. He had a system that when he reached there, the people had no alternative but to open. Despite the fact knowing wherever he entered, he did not leave a person alive after that. They raped, they tortured, they killed. He destroyed lands after lands after lands. After Baghdad, now when Iraq had no army to stand up against him, they say after Baghdad it was the entire Iraq. It was Syria, it was Jordan, it was Palestine, it was Lebanon. That name sounds small, go visit that land. But when you say he went through the land, he cut. And then he entered into Egypt. At that time it was understood that this is the end. يُرِيدُونَ لِيُطْفِئُوا نُورَ اللَّهِ. They desire to blow out that candle. وَاللَّهُ مُتِمُّ نُورِهِ. Today we don't hear of the Tatars, but Islam is still burning like anything. Allah Pak created people. Most notable amongst them was a man called Amir Quds. He single-handedly or with an army, they meet the Tatars in different battles. When the command of Allah comes, finished, it's the end. The Tatars collapsed. From a position in the world where no one believed they will collapse, they collapsed. The people blowing so hard on that one flame, but the flame carried on burning. 600 years after Hijri, today we are 1,400 years after Hijri. Tatars is forgotten, crusades were forgotten, Fatimi was forgotten, and the candle carried on burning. In recent history, the worst that we saw, worst threat of Islam was when World War I took place, World War II. 1914 onwards, where the Khilafat fell to the ground. Just before the Khilafat, Egypt was already taken. A few other countries were taken. Libya was taken. But with the Khilafat falling, then we saw it all going. We saw the loss of Iraq. We saw the loss of Hijaz. We saw the loss of Palestine. We saw the loss of Turkey. We saw the loss of practically the entire Muslim world. The Ottoman Empire had put its spots, Uzbekistan, Turkestan, those places were brimming against with Islam. When the Ottoman collapsed, Islam practically was wiped out in the world. Scholars in the millions were removed. Islamic dress was removed. Recently some friends went to Bosnia, and it's a place to go visit for a holiday if you want to really take an Islamic holiday. One is to go and visit Istanbul. When Turkey fell, Mustafa Kemal stood up. That was now the center of the Muslim world. Ottoman Khilafat. Istanbul is the center. When Istanbul changed, it was like an announcement to the world, now your Islam is finished. When the Khilafat fell, in Turkey, Istanbul is one city in the entire Turkey. Every masjid, every scholar of every masjid, which can go into the thousands, they say over 70,000 scholars were removed. Removed means no one knows what happened to them. And in their place, new liars were put up. In Egypt, Al-Azhar was taken over. New fatwa was given. Interest which was understood by the world as haram became halal. Hijab which everyone understood. So they say when you go to Bosnia, they'll take you to the museums. In the museums, they'll show you how the old Bosnians used to live. There you will see the niqab. Everyone had the niqab. No one thought the time will come where in the Muslim worlds, niqab would be forgotten. Niqab would be questioned. Is there something called hijab? Is there something called parda? It all went flat. The beards came out, the kurtas came out, the niqab came out, everything came out, the burqa came out. The language of Arabic disappeared, the script of Arabic disappeared. In some countries the adhan was banned. In some Muslim countries learning of Quran was banned. Again the whole world thought this is the end. يُرِيدُونَ لِيُطْفِئُوا نُورَ اللَّهِ. So much desiring to blow out one candle. Wallahu mutimmu nurihi. 1914, 1918, the world war ended. Israel was created. America took center stage in pushing and promoting this mission that Islam must not survive in the world. Britain went for it. With Britain, they destroyed the Khilafat. They took away the Hijaz. They made the Middle East into pieces. And then they pulled out. America came into it. How many superpowers have worked and continue working? But as it never happened in the past, Wallahu mutimmu nurihi. Today we are now entering into a new year. 1441, when we say this is the Hijrah, a new Islamic year. That word, a new Islamic year, is that candle of Islam saying, I'm still standing. How many people blew against it and how many went to their grave? But the candle of Islam, how it stands. Unique is this miracle of Islam, but how it operates, how Allah made evil always was looking high. فَأَمَّا الزَّبَدُ فَيَذْهَبُ جُفَاءً. Almighty Allah in Quran says, what an example your Allah is giving. The example of haqq and batil, the truth and falsehood. Allah Tabarak Ta'ala says it's the example of like when floods come. When floods come, it comes with such a force that the strong houses also you see them collapsing. فَأَمَّا الزَّبَدُ. After the floods has ended, you will see on top of the water dirt, muck, whatever it brought. That's the only thing you see. You see devastation, you see lives lost, you see people crying. فَأَمَّا الزَّبَدُ فَيَذْهَبُ جُفَاءً. But after a couple of days, it starts drying up. And as it starts drying, it moves one side. وَأَمَّا مَا يَنْفَعُ النَّاسِ فَيَمْكُثُ فِي الْأَرْضِ. And as for that which is beneficial to mankind, that remains in the world. Water still carries on going. The world still finds pure water. During those floods, they would have said, it doesn't seem there's any pure water in the world. But pure water has continued. 1,400 years have passed. The word which Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said 1,400 years ago. Forget Quran, which we are able to read every Dhamma, Fatha, Kasra. Forget Quran. A day he smiled, and why he smiled. A joke he made to a youngster. How he woke up in the morning and what dua he read. He entered the toilet, with which leg he entered. He got onto the camel, how he got onto. After 1,400 years, we ourselves know it as though we're seeing him in front of us. His teachings they could not change. Quran they could not change. And when we will all go in sajda now, Jummah time, I want you to think about this. That we are not in a Muslim world. And this is not a Muslim environment. But when you will go in sajda, think about while you making sajda, how many Jumas are taking place in the entire world. And how many heads are at the moment in front of Allah. As those heads hit, it is that candle of Islam saying, Wallahu mutimmu nurihi. How many people blew it to stop that there will not be a sajda left in the world. But the sajdas never stopped. Unique is Islam. فَأَمَّا الزَّبَدُ فَيَذْهَبُ جُفَاءً. The mott and the filth will dry. وَأَمَّا مَا يَنْفَعُ النَّاسِ فَيَمْكُثُ فِي الْأَرْضِ. What is beneficial for mankind will continue in the world. كَذَلِكَ يَضْرِبُ اللَّهُ الْأَمْثَالِ. Unique is the example your Allah has given. لِلَّذِينَ اسْتَجَابُوا لِرَبِّهِمُ الْحُسْنَى. What this means is that that ship of Islam, no matter what storm hits it, in those waters, sometimes the ship moves a little, but that ship has never sunk, and it will never sink. However, sometimes during the storm, some people in the ship get scared. So they feel instead of staying in the ship and drowning, let's jump in the water. So when the world of modernism came, the attack of modernism, some jumped into that. When the attack of Shiism came, some jumped into that. The attack of Qadianism came, some jumped in that. Whenever the attack came, a man said, I don't think I'm going to survive, let me jump. Whoever jumped in the water drowned. But that ship of Islam never sank. This next verse is saying, oh people on the ship, the war is going to carry on, the attack is going to carry on, you don't fall. لِلَّذِينَ اسْتَجَابُوا لِرَبِّهِمُ الْحُسْنَى. For those people who are ready to accept the call of their Allah, for them we have created things they can never imagine. There's another world coming. Al-Husna, Al-Ahsan means the best you can ever think about. لِلَّذِينَ اسْتَجَابُوا لِرَبِّهِمُ الْحُسْنَى. For those who say yes to the call of Allah, they will find unique things waiting for them. وَالَّذِينَ لَمْ يَسْتَجِيبُوا. And as for those people who are not ready to jump, who want to jump into the water, not jump for Islam, Allah Tabarak Ta'ala says, لَوْ أَنَّ لَهُمْ مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا. Even if they earned the whole world, because they felt that if I join this group I can get, and if I join that group I can get, even if they earn the whole world, a day will come, لَفْتَدَوْا, that they will say, oh Allah, please can I pay ransom? I will give the whole world also to ransom myself out of this problem. أُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمْ سُوءُ الْحِسَابِ. For them there will be a terrible reckoning. Their place has been written as Jahannam. What a terrible place they are going. Unique how this ayat ended, that ship of Islam is not going to sink. But oh people on the ship, you don't jump into the water. May Allah Tabarak Ta'ala make it. 1441 is a lesson to the world that Islam has not died and it will never die. Thoughts came, modern thoughts came, atheistic thoughts came, Shi'i thoughts came. Each group questioned so many things about Islam. Groups and groups came, groups and groups went. But the pure Islam remained burning and it continues burning. And it will last till the ending burning. Whoever stays amazed at that one candle of Islam, he will also remain and he will find unique things for him. Whether he dies as a martyr in this world or he dies a natural death, but don't jump into the water. May Allah Tabarak Ta'ala protect us all from drowning in the storms of evil. May Allah Tabarak Ta'ala keep us firm on the ship of Islam. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah.